Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bone Scholars, and welcome to Bone Scholars. Today, I have chosen a different topic for discussion, and the topic is war terminologies. War terminologies. As you know, we just had a war um, between India and Pakistan, and there were a lot of terminologies. The news, the newsrooms buzzing with a lot of different words which a normal public may not know. I mean, that's not the daily thing, so it's not your fault. But then there's no harm in knowing about that terminology and learn about the terminologies that is used in the war, that is used in defense sector. And why I'm able to talk about this is because I have a, a defense PSU's background where I worked in these scenarios. I worked with these words specifically, to be precise. So I know about these words, and I can explain you these words. Now it's interesting whenever we are using the word, say, conflict. Now, conflict is a word which has a meaning that a serious disagreement when you have the conflict of interest. We also say the conflict of interest. A serious disagreement. It's about the agreement. So whenever there is a conflict, we always take it that both the parties, they just don't have any kind of agreement, both the group or the parties or the countries for that matter. So conflict is the word that is a war terminology that comes in the war terminologies. Ceasefire. Now India and Pakistan, we are talking about it, that ceasefire. President Donald Trump says ceasefire, whereas we say that we have not used the word ceasefire. But anyways, we should know what a ceasefire means. Now, ceasefire means a temporary or a permanent stop of fighting between the warring sides. Now, there are two countries. Now, India and Pakistan, they were having a war, but suddenly it was stopped. Ceasefire was announced by President Donald Trump of USA, and we say ceasefire, ceasefire. Everybody is talking about ceasefire. Some might pronounce it differently as well, but the basic, the good or the right pronunciation is ceasefire. Ceasefire. So ceasefire is temporary or a permanent stop to fighting. So when you stop fighting. Operation, military operations, or DG operation, Director General operations. We have been talking about these terms, and all the news anchors have been talking about DG, Director General operations. Now, what does this operation mean? Operation is a planned military action. A planned military action, often with a specific name. For example, this was Operation Sindoor. Operation Sindoor. So it was a planned military action where the country has planned to attack, retaliate. You know the history, you know the reason. So we're not going to on to those details. We are only going to discuss about the words that we have. Now the next word that is there is airstrike. 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 What does airstrike mean? Now airstrike is an attack from an aircraft. Airstrike, since there is a word air, strike is to hit, so you are hitting from an aircraft using bombs or missiles. So you need to have an aircraft for this. So airstrikes. Now we have heard these words even in case of Israel and Palestine or attacks. Israel always does the airstrikes. So there's no land movement. So whenever the army does the land movement, so whenever there is an air force involved, there will be airstrikes. So airstrike is an attack from aircraft using bombs or missiles. Now the next terminology is infiltration. Infiltration is secretly entering enemy's territory. When you are entering the enemy territory, usually to gather information or carry out sabotage. SABOTAGE, sabotage, धोखा देना. So infiltration, so secretly entering enemy's territory. जब आप enemy की territory में secretly enter कर रहे हैं, the word is infiltration. Mobilization, preparing and organizing troops to equip for war. Mobilization, let's mobilize the troop, mobilize this, mobilize that, mobilize missiles, mobilize bombs. Whenever we say that, it's mobilization. You're trying to move them from one location to another, preparing and organizing troops and equipment for war. Artillery. Very frequently this term is being used in case of war situations. Artillery is large caliber guns. Large caliber. Now caliber is, something like, in a crude way, if I have to say, it's about the gun dia of the gun. How big is that? So that's called caliber. Large caliber guns used in warfare or land. Whenever we will have large caliber guns, we'll always say artillery. Drone warfare is whenever we are using unmanned aerial vehicles, that is UAVs, to carry out the attacks or surveillance. We will say it's a drone warfare. Territorial disputes. Territorial dispute is a disagreement over the territorial dispute. Territory is the area. Now, whenever we are fighting for a particular area, it is a territorial dispute. You're fighting for a single territory, and it becomes a territorial dispute. Guerrilla warfare. Guerrilla is irregular fighting by small groups using ambushes and surprise attacks. So whenever we will have surprise attacks and then we attack like that, so it's like a guerrilla technique, or we call it guerrilla warfare. Skirmishes is another term which has been used for war situations. Skirmish, 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 a short minor battle or fight, often unplanned. Retaliation, a counterattack in response to an enemy or action. India retaliated, or say Pakistan retaliated, or any warring country like Ukraine or Russia, which are currently in who have been in the war situation. So whenever somebody is responding back, it's retaliation. Tactical strike, a small, precise military attack meant to achieve a specific short-term goal, that is tactical strike. Strategic strike, a large-scale attack meant to weaken enemies' ability to fight for a long term. Strategic strike. So when you are using a strategy to strike on the enemy's territory, so you can use air strike. So air strike is a part of the strategic strike in a way. No fly zone, area where aircraft are not allowed to fly, often military areas or the airports. They are normally known as no fly zones. No fly zones. Frontline. Frontline, the area where fighting is most intense between opposing forces. So that's frontline. Casualty. Casualty is a person injured. So how many casualties you had means how many persons have been injured in the war situations. Collateral damage. Collateral damage is unintentional damage or civilian deaths caused during the military operations. That's collateral damage. Insurgency, a rebellion against authority, often involving armed conflict. Well, that's not that relevant at the moment, but peacekeeping, whenever military and the diplomatic efforts are being made to pacify the two countries, we will say peacekeeping efforts are on. De-escalations. Now, India's attack on Pakistan, we have been saying it's non-escalatory, not for escalation. We don't want to go more. De-escalation is opposite to that. Steps taken to reduce tension. De-escalate. Whenever you are de-escalating, you're trying to reduce it. You're not trying to increase it further. Increase is escalation. De-escalation is to drop it down, to drop down the magnitude of the escalation that you're planning. Okay. Now, hostilities, act of war or aggression. Proxy war is another very good term. A conflict where two powers support opposite sides but do not fight each other directly. Proxy war, when you are doing the war through some other means but not really fighting. Proxy war. War crimes, serious violations of the laws of the war, such as targeting civilians. War crimes. Truce, truce, truce. Now you will find these words in the description box of this video that we are creating. You can go to the description box and then see these words, read them carefully after the session, because when I'm saying, maybe some of them I'm missing these words, but then you can always, we are discussing about the war terminologies, the terminologies that are being used in the wars. Truce, a temporary agreement to stop fighting. A temporary agreement to stop fighting. That's called truce. Truce. Now let us have some more terms. Hypersonic missile, a missile that travels at a speed exceeding Mach 5. Mach 5, that is 5 times the speed of sound. So, making interception challenging. So, it is so fast that it is very difficult to detect. So, hypersonic missiles, like China has created, and there are many countries who talk about the hypersonic missiles. So, missile that travel at a speed exceeding Mach 5. Now, this is another term. Well, that's it for now. And I think if you have some more terms where you feel that you're not aware of, and then during the war situations we have been using those terms, you can let me know, and maybe you can text me that you don't know the meaning of this. Maybe we can work it out. So what we discussed is, we discussed about the meaning of term ceasefire. We discussed about the term operation, airstrike, infiltration, mobilization, what an artillery is, drone warfare, territorial dispute, guerrilla warfare, skirmish, retaliation. What does a retaliation mean? Tactical strike, strategic strike, no-fly zone, drone warfare, collateral damage, insurgency, peacekeeping, de-escalation, hostilities, proxy war, war crimes, truce. These are the a few words. These are a few words that I could just repeat for you. Those who have just um, tuned in. Thank you very much for being there. And this is a session on building vocabulary. So I just thought that we should make a video on the war terminologies that we are using um, at the moment. At the moment, we are hearing more of that because of the situation between India and Pakistan. And we did not care about other wars because it really didn't affect us too much. Now it's at our homeland, so we should be knowing about these terms and these terminologies. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.